Hello, welcome to the Stock Out. This is your show at FreightWaves for all things related to the CPG and retail industries. I'm one of your hosts, Mike Baudendistel. What we're going to be doing today is I'll give a rundown of the news in the CPG space and the freight space. And then we're going to also talk with Steve Lewis, who is the division. There's Grace Sharkey,
There we go.
who's my co-host. So good to see you. And so, we're going to run down to the news, and then we're going to be interviewing Steve Lewis, who's the division president of the Americas at GXO Direct, really innovative arm of GXO. So we'll really, dive into what's happening there in the automated warehousing space. Grace, I think I'll let you take the lead on that. And before we do that, I just want to make sure everyone has an opportunity to sign up for the Stock Out newsletter. I invite you to go to www.freightwaves.com/the Stock Out and sign up for that Stock Out newsletter, right at the first one there under supply chain. Send that out once a week in the middle part of the week, and go through what we think is interesting in the world of CPG, and then sort of what we have in the FreightWaves data and sort of how those things interrelate. So with that, I'll do a quick news rundown. I have 4 items on the list today. Item number 1, analyst reactions to Smucker's acquisition of Hostess were mixed. We talked about this last week. Last week, this came out right as we were shooting the show that morning, and it's interesting to see some of the reactions of the analyst community. We did see Smucker's shares pull back some. A lot of that is just typical when a company acquires another company. The acquirer, their stock does tend to go down. I think maybe it went down a little bit more than you would have expected. There was a downgrade from Bank of America, took the shares from buy to hold. The pushback, valuation was one of those things. 17.2 times EBITDA. Higher than some of the peer group. They do say, if you back out the expected synergies, the cost synergies, it takes it to 13.2 times. And some of the analysts were saying, well, if it wasn't for the high competition for this deal, General Mills wanted to acquire it also, that's part of what contributed to the high valuation. So speculation that Smucker may have overpaid. There was also doubt along similar lines that we discussed last week that the indulgent snacking trend will continue. Smucker says that the indulgent snacking has grown about 20% faster than other types of snacking the past few years. Maybe that was temporary with stress eating with the pandemic. We'll see. And then a lot of the analysts bring up Smucker's past deals that were had already been enhanced by private equity. So we heard a lot about the Big Heart Pet Brands acquisition in 2015 on Smucker's analyst call. Companies suggesting, well, maybe private equity has already optimized Hostess because it's really added a tremendous amount of value the past 3 years, acquiring out of bankruptcy, and maybe the easy money has been made there. But on the positive side, there were some analysts that were more positive. Cowen thought that the market was underestimating Smucker's ability to integrate Hostess, brings Smucker into a new market. These C stores, which Hostess, about 40% of their sales is to the C store. So potentially they could sell more Smuckers, Uncrustables and those type of things in the C stores. And then, potential manufacturing synergy. I think that maybe the most interesting take I heard was someone who suggested, well, this multi-billion-dollar investment that Smucker has just made in manufacturing capacity to produce Uncrustables. It's really sort of unclear how much Uncrustables is going to continue to grow. I mean, maybe it'll continue to grow very quickly like it has and be a great product for Smucker. That's even a bigger revenue. Or maybe it's kind of a fad when you have adults, eating things that were designed for children, but having Hostess under the same umbrella, maybe that's a hedge in the manufacturing space that potentially you could manufacture Hostess products in that manufacturing space that they acquired. So those were kind of the bear and bull points. Grace, did I miss anything?
Well, no, I think you hit the biggest points right there, and it's interesting because I found a survey or chart that broke down their revenue, and I guess I was surprised to see how heavy they were in the pet food section. I mean, I think if you combine coffee and then pet related foods and snacks, etc., it was like over 70% of what they're doing. So to say that this could help grow revenue, I definitely think so. It's might be a negative in terms of, well, going into the deal in terms of how they maybe have a relationship with stores, but you would think that adding Hostess will allow them to grow that even more. I will say too, on the Uncrustable side, it sounds like they are very close to releasing a special new formula that allows, because we all know Uncrustables are under the frozen section, right? Well, there is a new formula that could possibly sit next to its Hostess counterparts as well. So I think when we talk about that convenience store capability or relationships, if they can do that and already see such a huge market from Uncrustables, this should allow that to take off once it is capable of sitting on a shelf. It sounded like for at least 5 or 6 days at this point. So yeah, I say positives for now. Clearly, we'll continue to watch and see how it grows. And the manufacturing piece, I think, is huge too. But yeah, well, they definitely picked up, I think, on the snack portion, which I was so surprised to see was so low when I dove into those numbers.
Yeah, good points there. So the negative perception initially might have been a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction. The second item I have here is 2 plant-based meat startups cease operation. This was reported by Food Business News. Thought this was significant. So Hooray Foods and Nowadays both announced different posts that they would cease operations. Hooray Foods launched 4 years ago to make plant-based bacon alternative. That doesn't sound great to me. At one point, they were in over 1,000 grocery stores, and then Nowadays was making plant-based nuggets. So that one didn't work out either. And this has been a category that there was a lot of interest in 2020. And when we started the Stock Out newsletter, it was a segment that I paid attention to because there's so much focus on sustainability that potentially this could have been a tremendous thing. I mean, you never really know how these trends are going to play out, but Beyond Meat's share price has been a complete disaster. I mean, the share chart, yeah, that's a bad one, from about 13 billion market cap to less than $1 billion market cap. But have you tried any of these plant-based meat alternatives out of curiosity?
I have tried the Morningstar Farms alternatives, like the burgers I've had, and some of like the snacks that they do have. I haven't had the chicken nuggets or anything. That kind of creeps me out. Who knows what's in a chicken nugget to begin with? So I will say it's funny to look back when the hype of alternative meats was. It caught me as well. We were going through the whole toilet paper shortage, and what's even available at grocery stores is just what's available. And so I think the rhetoric behind a lot of these companies of, there's the sustainability of meat, and if we'll even, have the capabilities to I guess have meat in the stores like we potentially saw in other, I guess, paper products, right? That caught my eye and that got my interest at the very beginning. But as time has gone by, to be honest with you, I'd rather eat vegetables if that's a situation I'm in. Health-wise, for me, it's kind of like my feeling, honestly, I'm like diet soda. It's like best off just not drinking soda. But I think this is played out a little bit where people are, I noticed a lot of people are buying meat directly from local farmers and kind of helping with that sustainability issue. And I just don't think it's as that marketing or that hype of, oh no, will we have beef all the time, as I think people have settled down on that. Plus inflation, I think, as a consumer, at the end of the day, I'm going to find the cheapest way to feed myself. And a lot of these are priced pretty high. So as much as I want to be a more sustainable consumer, once inflation goes down, that might be something I go back to purchase.
Yeah, it is hard to sell a product for more money that tastes worse. That's a tough.
Yes. One. Yeah. It's not good. If it's definitely, like I said, I would rather just have like a really good salad than try to like make my way through a plant-based burger at the end of the day.
Yeah. Speaking of things that don't taste good, Clorox products generally don't taste good. They put out an 8K this morning. Basically withdrawing their quarterly guidance. They said that the cyber attack that hit them is going to have a significant impact on their fiscal first quarter results, that it's not clear if it's also going to be meaningful for the full fiscal year. But this had been originally disclosed about a little over a month ago. So we see Clorox down a little bit on the news. This has been, that's what I would call a COVID round trip. Went from 140 to 240 back to 140. So this one does expect to be transitioning back to a normal. I guess this is impacting their ability to process orders. So they're having to do things manually that they tend to do automated with this system. Expect to start coming back online sort of next week, but taking a little bit of time. Have you seen a lot of this? And you've seen a lot of this in your editorial coverage, right? I mean, with various cyber attacks at various companies. Is this a growing concern?
Huge. We've seen it, especially if we want to get down to the truck side, we've seen it all the time in ELDs. And I think that goes back to really how we're integrating those. But I mean, as we become more connected and our supply chains become more connected and we have all these, I mean, some of these systems have so many integrations between different partners. This is something we're going to see more of. Actually, there's a recent Gartner study that because of the lack of talent and also human failure when it comes to a lot of these systems out there, that by 2025, I think over half of our cyber incidents will be related to the people that you have within your four walls. Are you making the right investment? Right? If you're investing in new systems, if you're investing in new integrations and partnerships, do you have the people in-house to watch for these? And I think, again, as we see more AI too, that's going to fundamentally change enterprise attacks as well. So I think this is just going to become an even bigger concern. And for everyone watching who's looking to integrate more tech into their stack today, do you have the human capital on board to be able to watch for these incidents? And do you have really good backup systems in order to avoid problems when it comes to your consumers too?
Yeah, huge concern for sure. Just hit this last one pretty quickly. This was an article that Todd Maiden wrote up for the site. J.B. Hunt turning a little bit more positive on fall demand. I thought this was important last week. And I thought this was just a little bit of a reversal from what they had said earlier, but it was a different person. This was Shelley Simpson talking about how, maybe see a little bit of a peak season this fall. Whereas, a week or two ago, J.B. Hunt's president of Intermodal, Darren Field, said, well, things are kind of mixed from customers. Some have high inventory still. Some are seeing sort of growth in demand. Some are seeing more weakness. But it does seem like at least they're seeing a little bit more demand improving seasonally. You have an outbound tender volume index that supports that. So maybe there's going to be, maybe a mini, peak season. I don't think it's going to be robust by any measure, but JB Hunt, it does tend to be a bellwether for the freight sector. Their shares were up about 4% after this. It also brought up the rest of the group, Knight-Swift, Werner, Schneider National, all appreciated after Shelley Simpson's comments.
Yeah, it's. I think we've said it here too at FreightWaves, and a lot of the analysts that we have as well, that we're going to see some type of peak season, but I don't think it's going to be anywhere close to what probably our carriers would like to see right at the end of the day, including this one in particular. So we'll see that bump, but it's nothing going to be overly drastic to what the market's shown so far this year.
That's right. So you want to intro our guest? I mean,
yes. Yes. Oh, yeah. Speaking of, it's I'm excited because this is another episode of us diving into the warehousing side, and we talk about inventory, and we talk about, of course, a lot of the CPG and retail companies out there becoming more invested in how they can maneuver their supply chains. I think this is going to be an interesting interview. With us today is the division president of the Americas and Asia Pacific, also head of GXO Direct, Steve Lewis. Steve, thank you so much for joining us today. We're happy to have you on the show.
It's absolutely my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and let's dive right into GXO Direct, because I think this is a little bit a new offering that our audience hasn't heard too much about. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and your time at GXO and what the direct offering is looking like today?
Yeah, absolutely. So first about me, my background, I've been in supply chain for about 30 years. The first 20 of that being in the United States Navy, basically leading supply chain logistics on submarines, aircraft carriers, and then the naval aviation enterprise. So really focused on my customers back then, which were war fighters, and obviously a sense of urgency, type of mentality of find a way to get things done. And that really transcended as I came over to GXO, where I've been here for about the past 5 years, focused first initially on solutions, then more of a commercial role, and then now with GXO Direct as the president of this organization. GXO Direct, basically, it's a innovative, cost-effective, flexible fulfillment solution. We're in 14 different nodes in North America. So we have these separate nodes. We have as many as, say, in the greater Los Angeles area, 6 different sites there where we support all different types of clients, from digital natives, SMBs, all the way to large enterprise players. And so for some providers, we are their only supply chain outlet. And for others, we are handling a specific node or a specific channel, whether it's forward or reverse.
Yeah, some really great B-roll there. Really impressive, technology. You see all those robotics. And maybe that's a good place to start. I mean, if you sort of think about a technology adoption curve, I sort of think about, well, maybe, certain technologies are pretty much already developed. Like, smartphone, it gets barely better every year. Whereas like electric cars, they're coming quantum leap every couple of years. Where are we with robotics in a warehouse like that?
So I think if you look at like Gartner, they'll say they have their own hype cycle, right? So for where we are playing in the hype cycle, we have within Direct specifically collaborative robots. We have autonomous vehicles as far as forklifts and things like that inside the warehouse. Within the contract logistics across GXO globally, everything from goods to person to things from an auto store to gray orange to Locus Robotics, 6RS Collaborative Robotics, and everything in between. So it really kind of goes across the spectrum there. For Direct as a product, it's really about speed of go lives, and we're focusing on clients their first year requirements, not their 5th year requirements. So it's a little bit different of a product here, and that really helps those digital natives and smaller growing brands. And so we rely heavily on items like collaborative robots because they're quick to deploy. They're agile, so if your 1 year requirement is on track and your 5th year sales actually comes in line with more of a 3-year timeline, we can deploy more collaborative robots right into that same field and be able to get greater utilization out of that warehouse asset.
Yeah, it's incredible. I think just in that B-roll alone, everything from the employees and it looks like almost like the watches they're using as scanners to the autonomous technology is impressive to see. When it comes to warehousing, I'm interested. I've been watching a lot of your announcements recently. You guys have brought on a lot of incredible logos over the last couple of years. And a number of those players are getting deeper into how quickly they're meeting the needs to their customers, whether it's last mile delivery and the capabilities to meet, that 2-hour delivery effect that many people are starting to see. Can you tell us a little bit of how GXO Direct is working to fulfill those options and make those options possible, and how you're working with the customers to choose exactly what capabilities they can showcase to their end consumers?
Certainly, and you hit on it, Grace. What we're seeing as far as our clients and potential clients are looking to get closer to population. And so our network I talked about, we're closer to where not only is population, but the ports and airports. So on the West Coast, as just a quick example, we're in Seattle, San Francisco, and LA, those greater markets, and we have multiple sites within those markets. And so this proximity allows us to allow our clients to be able to bring in, say on the West Coast, their drayage items into one of our facilities, and then we can balance their inventories across our network. This allows us to have same-day fulfillment for some of our clients in major metropolitan areas, and we can achieve 2-day ground to close to 99% of the population just by the proximity of where we're at. The other thing that's very beneficial for our clients is, unlike some of the other solutions that are out in the market, we don't have any requirements on the size of items. So this network, we have cross docks in all these different locations, and we support everything from a cosmetic item all the way up into heavy, bulky items like refrigerators, and so forward and reverse for anything under the sun, if you will.
Yeah, that's really impressive. One of the things that intrigued me from your website is you say that you can scale up and scale down for an individual company's warehousing needs. And how are you able to do that without sort of building the church for Easter Sunday, given that there's strong seasonal patterns, there's economy has a big impact on all those things. So it seems like everyone need warehousing at the same time.
Yeah.
So I think we benefit from scale here. So we, as far as GXO as a whole, we're almost 1,000 fulfillment and distribution centers across 26 countries. In the U.S., we're approaching 300 of those sites. And so within the direct network, I have over 100. So as we continue to grow and bring on new facilities, this allows us to be flexible with clients. And then the other piece is just having that density within market. So let's say that you are a new startup and you start with us in say the Southern California marketplace, we have you in Ontario. And as you want to expand, if we couldn't expand you in that exact footprint, some of our facilities are literally across the street. So we can be across the street within that market, or we might look at your demand and say, hey, we can improve your service levels and decrease miles, as far as transferring items back and forth, if we just take a subsegment of your high movers and place them into one of our other nodes, Dallas, or just outside of New York City, depending upon the product and where the demand signal is.
It's interesting, especially showcasing, right, the world presence that GXO does have. I'm wondering, are you finding that there's any certain markets, especially in your time at GXO, that are growing more than others, or certain areas or regions, especially here in the United States, that you're finding there's warehouse needs that are needed more than you've seen in the past?
Yeah, as far as for segments, we do everything from aerospace to food and beverage. I have food and beverage for North America. So we're definitely seeing an increase in food and beverage requirements, that's for sure. I know you had some of the other segments. Some of the ready-to-drink type of items, that's something we're seeing a definite increase in. As far as kind of a sweet spot, about half of our business is connected to some sort of e-commerce type of opportunity. So we're heavy there. In the U.S. market, of course, folks still want to be in major metropolitan areas like the greater Los Angeles area. They want to be able to get into, whether it's same day or next day, into the Northeast. So we have a strong presence in central PA, also just outside across the basically from New York City over into New Jersey, and then of course anything else in between. So the major markets like Atlanta, Memphis, Dallas, and Chicago, those are key footprints for not only the network but also our business. And it makes sense, the ability to, one, have access to strong labor, to transportation lines, and then three, be able to get our products out to our clients and users as efficiently as possible.
Perfect.
Yeah, you must collect a lot of data in this process. I mean, how can you leverage, or how can a CPG company leverage predictive analytics to understand their inventory needs in the various locations?
That's a good question. I was actually had caught your earlier podcast with Blue Yonder, and one of the things that we use within the direct network is the Blue Yonder Illuminate platform. And so there's lots of opportunities there to be able to look at those demand signals, analyze where the demand's coming from. I recall back on when you were talking with Manish, how can you run multiple scenarios to be able, and I think he called it infinite scenarios, to be able to see what's the best solution. So at GXO, we take with our tech stack combined with what the client wants as outcomes, and we can run some of those different types of scenarios to see what best fits for customer commit times, basically the budget of the client, and also what they want their ESG footprint to be, and then help them dial it in. And so I think that's where I see, as far as on a technology suite and software suite coming, with leveraging the tools of AI, ML, and data. That's going to be a game changer in the future. And I believe we're at the forefront of that with the partners we've selected and then the experience we have in the market.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it right here. Steve Lewis is a fan of the show, so that's probably some of the best feedback we can receive, and a wonderful partnership too, especially with Blue Yonder as well. Steve, I want to thank you so much for spending time with us here today. If people want to go learn more about GXO Direct, where can they head?
Yeah, I'd say just go to our website, gxo.com. You're going to see a lot of information. You're also going to see some proof points and be able to see some case studies. And then you can just kind of click on the button that says you want to learn more. And we'd be happy to reach out to you and connect and talk about what we do for our clients and what we could do for them.
Again, thank you so much. I appreciate your time and everything that GXO is doing for the industry as well. For everyone watching, of course, Mike did mention this earlier. We are a wonderful community, so you have a community newsletter that you can get as well. Head to freightwaves.com, click at the top of the page newsletters, and make sure that you check that today. Anything else, Mike? That's it?
No, that's it. Thanks for me also, and thanks everyone for listening.